On behalf of the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, we welcome each one of you to the session on GST and e-invoice. This webinar series is being organized under the aegis of Indirect Tax Expert Committee of BCIC. We like to specially thank Mr. Badrinath, Chair and Partner SDU for curating this session for the benefit of our members. The speaker for today's session, there's a small change. Mr. Manish Jain couldn't join. So on his behalf, Mr. Mukesh Shah, partner, NNMS and Co. And is also a member of our Indirect Tax Expert Committee of BCIC. And Mr. Adarsh Singh, subject matter expert, Web Solution Limited. They will deliberate and present on the requirements under GST, the business challenges, possible solution, along with the live demo of the web invoice platform. Mr. Badrinath, Chairman of the Indirect Tax Expert Committee, will set the context and moderate today's session. On behalf of BCIC, we like to express our sincere thanks to Mr. Mukesh Shah and Mr. Adarsh Singh for accepting our invitation to address on this important subject. Also, we like to specially thank Mr. Narendra Venugopal, Siddharth Nandakumar, and Neha from the Web Solutions Limited. We like to thank all the participants for joining in today's session. We also like to acknowledge and thank Web Solutions Limited for being a supporting partner for today's virtual session. A brief about Web Solution. Web Solution is a 20-year-old listed company. Web was initially known as Wipro e-Peripherals, and which was part of Wipro Limited. In 2000, it became an independent entity with pan-India presence and 600 plus large to mid-sized trusted customers. The company has multiple solution offering like print service, document management system, workflow automation, GST filing, and e-invoice. We are very happy to inform that the Web Solution Limited is offering a 1 month trial offer on Web GST e-invoice platform. We have shared the link in the chat box for the participants to fill in and share their interest. We would like to urge all of you to kindly utilize this opportunity. We request all the participants to kindly mute your mic and webcam option. This will enhance and keep the bandwidth strong and also avoid any disturbance in the background. Request all of you to post your questions in the chat box, or you could raise your hand so that the speakers will be able to address your queries. May I now invite Mr. Badrinath to set the context and moderate today's session. Thanking you all once again to all of you. Over to you, Badrinath sir.
Thank you. Thanks for those. Thanks for the start. And yes, to start with, Adarsh and Mukesh, a very warm welcome to both of you, and a special thanks to Mukesh because it was Hanish who was supposed to be the speaker today, but yeah, I understand he took the jab 2 days back and he's feeling a little uneasy. So thank you, Mukesh, for stepping in. So let me just take a few minutes to set the context before we get into the discussion with Adarsh and Mukesh. And yes, Prithvi, you did mention that WP Peripherals is offering 1 month offer. You forgot to mention it's free. So
yes, please. I mentioned this free 1 month offer. It's free.
So just to re-emphasize, I think all of you should try and utilize this opportunity to see how it is and look at how it can we can bring in more efficiencies in our system. I mean that is the other side of it. But yes, e-invoicing, of course, maybe it's a new thing for few businesses as recent as April, but largely the discussions around this started way back in 2019 of December. Right, that's when Rule 48 got amended, and there were 10 portals, 10 common portals which were notified by the government saying these are the 10 portals where we should use, which we should start using to generate the e-invoices. Finally, yes, e-invoicing saw the light only effective 1/10/2020. I mean, you know the thresholds, how it is applicable, the dynamic QR code, the QR, what is the threshold that's applicable. Okay, all that is fine. But yes, let me state one thing. Very simple, in very simple words, if I have to say something about this, it is getting that magical IRN and the QR code onto our invoices. That is e-invoicing. So how it works, why it is implemented, what are the benefits expected out of this, what is the way forward for this, and how efficient we can be in the process of generating this and ensuring compliance is something which Mukesh and Adarsh are going to be walking us through. Adarsh, more specifically in terms of how efficiencies can be brought in from our ERP and compliance perspective. Yes, the legal flavor will be Mukesh. Uh, you know, I'm sure Mukesh will speak about this. Just as a small thing, I have to just tell you three things. Sorry, I have only three things to say about this. I would say these are myths, so don't get carried by this. The e-invoicing does not mean generation of an invoice on the GST portal. It is not that. E-invoicing does not also mean uploading of an invoice onto a government. It doesn't mean so. And it also does not mean that you and I have to change the seriatim or the serial numbering of the invoices that we are currently following. It does not mean any of this. It is an additional requirement which has come in the GST. With these three myths, I will request now Mukesh.
Sir, you are on mute, sir.
You're on mute. Unable to hear you.
No, sir. Audio is not there, sir.
I was speaking for the last 4 minutes.
No, now just few seconds. Now we are able to hear, sir.
Okay. So I don't know where I lost the audio, but yes, with these three myths, over to Mukesh. As Prithvi was mentioning, Mukesh is a part of the Indirect Taxes Committee of PCIC. He is a partner, founder partner of NNMS, and more importantly, he's a very dear friend. And thank you, Mukesh, for coming in. Over to you now.
Thank you, Badri sir. Thank you very much.
So I will end the audio for now.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope the presentation is visible.
Yes, Mukesh, it is.
Yeah. So today's session is regarding GST and e-invoice. It's something new which has come in under GST. So I'll just take you through my views on the GST. Before we start, there are certain abbreviations. I just wanted to highlight that the IRN, which is we are talking about, is called. Actually, there is nothing called e-invoice as such in the GST law. It is IRN, but for the sake of convenience, electronic e-invoice is being used. E-invoice is, as Badri sir has rightly said, is not generated from the portal, but it is kind of registered on a portal, and that portal is called IRP, Invoice Registration Portal. Then, of course, the other terminals are common, and we will, as and when it comes, we will discuss about the flow of today's discussion. I have set it in a way that we are discussing first about the invoice, the advantages of e-invoice, to whom it is applicable, to whom it is not applicable, what are the transactions which are not required to be reported on the IRP, the flow of the process before generating e-invoices, what we should take care of, at the time of generation, what we should take care of, and post generation of e-invoice, what the registered person has to take care of. Of course, there are certain workarounds which some kind of businesses will need to implement in order to generate a correct e-invoice, and then certain other aspects with regard to the e-invoicing process. See, indirect tax regime, one of the characteristics is the assessment. Computation. Assessment means computation of the liability, tax liability. And GST is under self-assessment regime. Assessment, every supplier or every registered person does an assessment, that is the computation of tax liability, first time when he is raising an invoice. He is computing the tax liability himself. So we are calling it a self-assessment. His assessment is getting documented on the invoice first time, and then he reports under GSTR 1 and GSTR 3. So invoice becomes a very important document for any businessman as far as GST is concerned. Section 31 of the GST law governs the provisions regarding the e-invoice. It also prescribes when e-invoice, it governs the provision with regard to invoices. It also prescribes that what are the content of an invoice should be, how an invoice should be raised, when an invoice should be raised, when you have to raise an invoice, when you have to raise a bill of supply, and there are specific suppliers for whom a specific invoice format is provided. So the power to prescribe what are the particulars or what is the manner is in fact residing in section 31. From there, the government is able to make out the rules. Section 31, for the purpose of goods, it says that invoice should be raised on or before a removal of goods, on or before. And for the purpose of services, it prescribes that either before provision of service, after provision of service, or within certain prescribed time, invoice must be raised by the service provider. Now, section 31 says that the government can prescribe particulars, and those particulars which are required to be mentioned on the invoice are prescribed under Rule 46. Before e-invoice came in, there were 17 items prescribed under Rule 46 to be mentioned on the invoice: GST number, address, GST number of the recipient, the HSN code, goods, description, quantity, value, taxable value, rate of tax, all those things are there. Then they, after bringing in e-invoice, they have brought in the 18th line item, and that is that QR code which contains the IRN also should be printed on the invoice. So Rule 46, earlier whatever was there exists. Every registered person has to follow Rule 46. There is no change in the Rule 46. In fact, there is an additional requirement that QR code also has to be printed on the face of the invoice itself. So that is one additional requirement. This is about the particulars with regard to invoice, what it should contain. And then there is when it has to be raised. Rule 47 is there for services. There is certain additional period is given. The manner of issuing invoice, what it should contain, when it should be raised, and how it should be raised. So how it should be raised is answered in Rule 48. For all the taxable registered person, invoice should be raised in 3 copies. All those things were there. But then Rule 48, Sub-Rule 4 was inserted for effectively implementing the e-invoice process, whereby it says that the invoice has to be reported and an IRN has to be generated from the IRPs, and that IRN is to be that is the way invoice has to be issued. So this is with regard to the manner of issuing invoice. So there is no change in Rule 46. There is no change in Rule 47. Rule 48 effectively includes additional line item for the suppliers. Now, what is governed or what is included? We have discussed 46, 40. If there is a taxable supply, the supplier has to raise a tax invoice. If it is an exempted supply, then the supplier has to raise a bill of supply. Tax invoice is not to be raised. So there is a difference between tax invoice and bill of supply. Bill of supply is out of e-invoice. Only B2B transactions are to be considered for generating e-invoice. There is also one rule 46A which prescribes that if the supply is made to an unregistered person, then the supplier can raise invoice cum bill of supply, which can include taxable as well as exempted supply. So that is also not to be reported to the e-invoice portal because it is specifically for B2C supplies. Then there is a requirement for raising bill of supply as well as composition dealers. One important aspect here is to whom applicable is B2B supplies. What are the B2B supplies? The taxable supplies to a registered person are B2B supplies, which are governed under e-invoice. One error which can occur in certain specific industries is that if a recipient is like and I have received a sponsorship from another corp, will be raising an invoice if I am under e-invoice procedures, I am supposed to raise IRN. So this has to be kept in mind. It's a very important thing. This can be missed out. Just because the recipient is liable to pay the tax, it doesn't mean that the liability in my hand of raising e-invoice not there. So these are the two transactions which one has to keep in mind. B2B supplies, and even though recipient is paying tax under RCM, the IRN has to be generated. It is mandatory for the supplier. Now, what are the advantages? The advantages which are, as of now, we can summarize are that the reporting of the data will not be required multiple number of times. Once the data is reported, as far as B2B and export invoices are concerned, then automatically it is flowing into GST, and it can also flow to e-way bill portal. So there is a saving of time, and time, of course, is money. There will be cost saving as far as time is saved. Substantial reduction in error. What happens is, at times a person raises an invoice, and when he is trying to generate e-way bill, he will commit some mistake in mentioning the amount or place of address and all those things, which can eventually result into penal consequences if the consignment is stopped or the movement of goods has been retained. So those kind of errors can be eliminated as far as B2B transactions are concerned, because the data can be generated and there cannot be any error. Both will be in sync, e-invoice as well as the e-way bill. One more important benefit of e-invoice is that the data will be in real time way available on GSTR1 as well as GSTR2A. So it is possible for the recipient also to verify the input tax credit eligibility. We all know Rule 36(4) has come in, and the input tax credit mechanism has undergone a substantial change. So it is very important from cash flow point of view also to verify the input tax credit eligibility for a particular tax period. So real-time data is a very good advantage of e-invoice. There will be a complete trail of B2B transactions. When we say complete trail means once an invoice is reported and a certain number of hours are like 24 hours within which we can cancel the invoice, that is gone. Then any change done in GSTR1, there will be a proper track as to there is an IRN generated with a particular value or description of goods or HSN and rate of tax. And in GSTR1, there is a change. So there will be a trail for B2B invoices. System level matching of input and output tax credit. Yes, GSTR1 it is flowing, GSTR2 it will be flowing. So matching of input tax and output tax credit will be possible. One more thing is, one should not be surprised in future that if any survey is conducted, because now the system will have HSN code wise quantitative information also available on the portal. All inputs and outputs, all purchases, inwards and outwards, will be on record. The authorities will have more or less idea about what is the inventory one person should be having. So such kind of things also will be possible and can be possible if e-invoice mechanism is effectively working. Elimination of fake invoices. This is one of the fundamental requirement or the objective of e-invoice. There is a process whereby once an invoice is reported, there is a deduplication check run on the portal. So if the same invoice is reported second time, it will be rejected by the IRP, and IRN cannot be generated. So to some extent, it will eliminate the risk of fake invoices. Environment friendly. After introduction of this e-invoice, e-way bill has also undergone a change whereby they are now allowing that if a QR code in even other than physical form is made available while the material is on the move, then there is no need to show them the tax invoice. So printing of the invoices will not be required, and that can definitely help in saving some cost as well as the environment. Analysis of e-invoice. See, the rule 46 sub-rule R, it says that QR code has to be embedded on the invoice itself. So one has to be very careful that apart from the other particulars, how to introduce or how to bring the QR code from the website generated document to the invoice. It is mandatory that the QR code which is embedded with IRN has to be printed on the same paper and not on the different paper. So this is one important aspect one should take care of. And the second is, as Badri sir has said, that the invoices are not generated from the portal. Only a content of the invoice is uploaded on the portal. Invoice is only reported, and the generation of the invoice happens as it was happening or as it was being done by the businesses earlier. So this is one myth one has to understand. One more important thing is, if IRN, if a person is notified that his aggregate turnover has exceeded, and if he is notified, and if he is not raising an e-invoice or he is not raising IRN, then particular invoice will not be considered as a valid invoice. There are a lot of repercussions of this. The more important repercussion is that the person who is receiving goods in the hands of the recipient, the first condition itself of the entitlement of input tax credit will not be met, and in the hands of the recipient, he will be disallowed from availing input tax credit, and this can result in loss of goodwill for the supplier. So one has to be very careful with regard to the applicability, whether he is falling in the notified person's category or not, and then follow the IRN requirements very carefully. E-invoicing reporting is mandatory for tax invoice, B2B transactions, credit notes, and debit notes. Only section 34 items. See, credit notes, we know there can be a commercial credit note or a credit note raised beyond the limitation period of September month's return filing from the end of the financial year. So any credit note which is raised post that transaction, that is not under section 34, and that need not be reported. Now, credit note can be issued for either if there is a higher amount charge or higher tax charge, or if there is a deficiency in goods or service, or there is a return sales return. In those cases, credit note can be generated. Apart from this, for any other reason or not complying with section 15 with regard to transaction value, if any credit note is raised, that credit note is not required to be reported because you are not allowed to reverse GST for such credit notes. For debit note, of course, there is no time limit. The debit note raised with GST has to be reported on IRN. Taxable supplies, as we discussed, B2B transactions, supplies to SEZ, export with payment of tax or without payment of tax, deemed export, all these transactions are covered under e-invoice requirement if the person is notified. Now let's discuss which entities are not required to raise e-invoice. Suppliers who are exempted. Here, government has done a very good thing whereby they have removed certain entities itself from compliance with the e-invoice procedure. And if they are having another kind of transactions also, they need not raise e-invoice. Which are those entities are SEZ units and FTWZs, insurers, banking companies, financial institutions, GTA service providers, passenger transport service provider, multiplexes issuing electronic tickets for the movies, OIDAR service providers, and input service distributors. These are the entities which are not required to raise e-invoice, even though their turnover is more than the threshold prescribed under the notification. The entities which are required to raise e-invoice basically are with effect from 1st of April 2021 if the aggregate turnover is more than 50 crores. Now, once your threshold of 50 crores is breached for last financial year from 17-18 onwards, from 17-18 till financial year 2021, one is to see in any of the financial year if the aggregate turnover is more than 50 crores, and that aggregate turnover definition is as per GST. If it is more than 50 crores, then with effect from 1st of April 2021, such supplier has to mandatorily follow the e-invoice guidelines. I'll take you through certain important aspects as far as this aggregate turnover is concerned. The aggregate turnover, they have defined it that as preceding, not as a preceding financial year, but preceding financial year since 2017-18 onwards. So one impact of this drafting is that once you have come in this, once your turnover is more than 50 crores and once e-invoice rules are applicable to you, then it will be always applicable. Suppose in financial year 21-22, you have turnover of only 40 crores. You can't say that 22-23 onwards, I need not follow because my preceding financial year is less than 50 crores. Any of the financial year with effect from 17-18. So once you have come into the gamut of e-invoicing, you are always there as far as this notification is effective and not changed. So now aggregate turnover, as we all know, we should not confuse it with the financial turnover. Financial turnover, as per financial statement, will be different or can be different. There are various grounds on which that can be different, but one has to follow what is as per the GST compliance, as per the section 2 of the GST law. What is the aggregate turnover? So, PAN, although that turnover will not be in aggregate turnover financial statement. So there are various reasons. Stock transfers will not be there in financial statement, but it will be there in the GST turnover. Now, exempt and no supply transaction. Exempt supply of goods or services which are nil rated or exempt under section 11 of CGST Act, or the transactions on which CGST or IGST is not applicable, like petroleum products and all. Now, what happens if a person's turnover, supplier's turnover, exceeds 50 crores in August 2021? So April to August turnover, cumulatively, if it exceeds 50 crores, then that supplier will be required to follow e-invoicing guidelines from 1st of April 2022 and not from 1st of September 2021, unless there is any change in law. Whether e-invoice to be raised between two GSTNs of the same PAN? Yes. Both the entities are treated as distinct persons. So transaction between B2B B2B transactions have to be reported. Both are distinct person. There is no exemption for such kind of transaction. Being a recipient of supply. See, it is very important now because section 16, if it is getting defeated in the hands of recipient, you will be more worried whether my supplier is under the invoice regulations, and if he is not raising, I will be I will be having a trouble in claiming input tax credit. As of now, there is no such list available that on whom these e-invoice regulations are applicable. The list, which is the enablement, what is done on the portal, is specifically based on GSTR 3B turnover, and GSTR 3B turnover need not be an aggregate turnover as far as the threshold limit is concerned. So there is no list as such, but one can verify the suppliers which are already generating IRN. I have mentioned here the web address. Maybe one can just visit this and verify. So this is with regard to what is the applicability on what kind of transactions it is applicable, on which entities it is not applicable. Now, once it is applicable, what you are supposed to do? The businesses are required to follow their existing practice and follow the IRN guidelines. Now, what is the IRN guidelines and what is the process of e-invoice? Let's see the flow of information for flow of process for e-invoice. The supplier has to follow and generate his own data invoice-wise using either offline utility or any other software, and that JSON file has to be generated. Now we are all very much aware of what is the JSON file, and how the data has to be validated before generating the JSON file. So once that JSON file is generated, data which is put into a particular schema, it has to be uploaded on the IRP, invoice reporting portal. What does this IRP does is it will eliminate invoices which are duplicate invoices. It will register a particular invoice and save the invoice in the GST system. And then it will send back a QR code to the IRP. There is a difference between IRP and GST system. When we are talking about IRP, as of now, there is only one website which is available under NIC, and slowly they will be activating other websites also. The IRP is merely an entity where the invoices are registered. There is a transaction flow happening between IRP and the GST system. QR code which is generated by IRP comes back to the registered person, and he can then convert that JSON file, whatever he receives, into an invoice and extract the QR code for the purpose of finally showing to the recipient. Now this, what happens here is, once the data goes on the ERP portal, the GSTN will auto-populate this data into GSTR1 of the supplier and GSTR2A of the recipient. So the buyer can also verify it in his login. The specific field with regard to e-way bill, if it is mentioned, then the data will also flow to the e-way bill portal, and e-way bill can also be generated. Although it is not mandatory as of now, if one wants to generate an e-way bill also simultaneously with IRP, there is a facility available. What eventually supplier has to do is, he has to issue the invoice with the QR code to the customer, to his recipient. IRP or GST system does not send the invoice. This is also already gone to the recipient. Sorry. Now, at the time of when we are generating the JSON file, or when we are reporting to the IRP, what one has to take care of and what happens, let's discuss about that. The invoice data can be uploaded in a multiple or a single line item. There can be one single invoice you can upload, or at the time you can upload hundreds of invoices also. There are APIs or free tools available using which the JSON file has to be generated and uploaded on the portal. One important thing is, though you are raising or you are submitting the invoices in bulk, the IRP reads invoice line item wise, because it has to do a deduplication check. Every single item is verified by IRP. And although there are lots of invoices, it takes very short time to generate. As per the FAQs, it says 200 milliseconds it takes to send back the IRN for each invoice. IRNs are not stored. See, it is very important that once it is uploaded, we cannot just be rest assured that, okay, data is always available and we can download it anytime from the IRP. The IRP is not a repository of invoices. They are not going to keep the invoices forever. Neither they are going to archive it. The data will be purged to GSTN and it will be deleted from the IRP. So one has to be very careful that once the data is uploaded, please download the JSON file and store it or keep it safely for future reference. As of now, the IRP, the e-invoice facility is made available for only those not notified persons who exceeded the turnover. Voluntary compliance as of now is not enabled. E-invoice can be also done by e-commerce operator. There is a detailed guidelines given as to how and which field to be keyed in if e-commerce operator is generating invoice. So that is also possible. Now, there can be maximum 1,000 of items in an invoice. If one person is raising more than that, he better split the invoice into two. So up to 1,000 items can be uploaded in single invoice. Now, what is schema? the objective of this e-invoice is the government wants the data in a certain format. So that is the objective and that is the output. Because the registered person may be following different softwares, different accounting softwares, ERPs, where they have their own structure of data. So we can look at this schema or the INV01, which is notified by notification number 60 of 2020, is a structured template. It is kind of a bridging file between the IRP softwares, the IRPs or the accounting software, as well as the data gets inputted in a particular structured format, and it goes to, or it is pushed to the government portal, so that IRP can pick up, read, understand, and process each and every invoice. So that is the whole objective behind bringing in the IRP. These describe certain mandatory field and certain options, and certain are mandatory if the options it cardinality. The cardinality is like what we have in our invoice, that address, the GST number of the supplier, the address of the supplier, the quantity, the GST number of the recipient, address of the recipient, the items, all those things. Now, these are all put as a field in the schema. GST number is a field for supplier. So if the cardinality 0 starts with 0, it's optional. And if it ends with 1, means only one entry can be put in. More than one cannot come, only one entry. Then 1.0. 1 means starting with 1 means it is a mandatory field. You have to key in something over there. And 1.n means it is a mandatory field and it can be entered n number of times. For example, the items in the invoice can be 5 or 15 items. Then it is a mandatory field. You have to enter at least one, and you can go up to certain n number of items in an invoice. So this is the cardinality concept of the e-invoice schema. Now let's understand what is validation done by the e-invoice or the IRP or the schema software. As of now, there is no validation as far as document date is concerned. You can raise an IRN. Say, for example, in a factory, it is possible that invoice is raised today, but the material dispatch is going to happen only after 10 days. The invoice is or will accept the material or not. In such scenario, what happens? There will be a difference between the date of invoice and the date when the invoice is reported on the IRN. As of now, there is no validation that the IRN, the website, the IRP, all the IRN portal. The other important aspect is what is the other charges? The other charges, as per the schema, the other charges are not included in the taxable value. We normally get confused, and the freight and other charges which are reported on an invoice, which are actually liable to tax, if it is reported in the other charges in the schema, it will not be reported as a taxable line item. So one has to be very careful while reporting this kind of items in the invoice. Freight, packing charges, these are all items which are taxable, and it should not be reported under other charges. It has to go as a line item in the invoice itself. Now then, what is the purpose of this is that suppose if the registered person is collecting TCS or any kind of a cess, Kerala flood cess, for example. So all those things which are not taxable under GST can be reported into other charges. Now the other charges, one more important utilization or workaround is that if suppose you have a abatement or the transaction value is not a taxable value. The best example can be the real estate transaction where there is an abatement of 1/3 value towards land on which tax is not liable. So suppose there is a transaction or uh, an amount of invoice to be raised for 1 crore plus GST. Then how the taxation should be done? I'll give an example. Effectively, your total I 1 crore 5 lakhs. So this is how the other items, other charges should be used. Now, if there is a reverse scenario, this can be actually this can arise in a case of a sale of a vehicle also, because there is a notification which provides for charging GST only on the sale price minus the depreciated value. There can be a different scenario whereby
Mukesh,
some other charges are also collected. I'm sorry.
Mukesh, just one thing. Audio is breaking in between, yeah? There's a break in the audio in between.
Maybe my internet connectivity. Is it okay now?
Yeah, now it's okay. But yeah, in between there was a break some time back. Okay, we'll continue.
Okay. So next, while reporting, what we should take care of. At times, what happens is the supplier wants to show discount on the face of the invoice itself, but at the time of report, not able to do so. So what he can do is there is a specific field available amount which and positive value should be given. If positive value is given, the IRN, because it is the selected item is the discount amount, automatically the positive item also will be taken as a negative value and GST will be computed. Debit note, credit note need not be linked with original invoice. Anyway, there is a change in the law also, but here also the validation check is not there. If what one should do, if for example, if a hotel is accepting an event on
Mukesh,
behalf
I'm
of a
sorry.
registered person and the hotel is a notified person required to raise e-invoice.
Mukesh, sorry. Do you want to switch off the video or something? Maybe it'll be better.
I'll do that.
The camera, I think it'll be, yeah, sure. Should be okay now.
I'm sorry, camera was on. I was not aware. Anyway, shall I resume?
Yes, it's better now.
Yeah. So if there is a situation where the hotel provides an event service and there is a food as well as alcoholic beverages, then the supplier should raise two separate invoices and should not merge taxable as well as exempted supply. GSTN of supplier and recipient must be active. When one is reporting the IRN, one has to be careful that the proper GST number of the recipient is mentioned. And if at times we have seen that the invoice gets rejected because the recipient GST number is not accepted by the IRN. At that point of time, there is a specific process which one has to follow. And if it is not active or the IRN is not getting generated and throwing error that recipient's GST number is not valid, then a ticket should be raised with the GST authorities. IRP rejects invoice if there is an error like duplication of invoice number or mandatory fields are empty. There are various other ways. Earlier rejections happening without any, but now the system is very by portal. Whatever supplier gives, portal merely registers the invoice and gives back the a particular HSN is not verified or validated by them. So one has to be very careful that the error in mentioning HSN and rate of tax, it can result into a problem. At times what happens is the HSN codes are not accepted on the IRP. I am giving here certain website links where the HSN codes can be verified. And if there is still a problem which is coming as while raising the IRN, then the ticket should be raised with self-service GST system, because there are certain HSNs still possible that not properly accepted or configured in the system. So one has to be very careful with regard to this. And e-invoice once raised can be deleted from the IRP within 24 hours from the time of reporting of the invoice. Now, how the invoice looks like, IRN looks like is, this is the IRN. This is a 64-digit IRN, alphanumerical, and it is a character hash, 64 character hash automatically generated by the portal. IRP is return a signed JSON file once the invoices are uploaded. The file which comes back from the website is signed. That is that actually authenticates that no one has tampered with the data which comes back from the IRP, and one can go with it. But it is very important that it is saved and securely kept in the with the supplier, because it is not going to be kept by IRP. Registered person must print and share the invoices with the recipient in addition to his tax invoice. It is mandatory that the QR code is printed, and it is not allowed to be printed on a separate paper. So there are a lot of things, many softwares which are actually as of now not generating or not talking to the IRPs directly, and suppliers or registered persons are depending on an offline tool. They can face a problem whereby they are generating a bulk invoice, but from system when they are generating invoice, the QR code cannot be copy pasted on that particular invoice. So what we have seen that the few people are following is that they're printing an invoice, and on the back side they are printing the IRN also, so that they can comply with the requirement that it is not on a separate paper. So it's just a workaround, but one has to be very careful that the the QR code is printed on the invoice itself. And what does QR code contain is the QR code contains GSTN number of supplier, recipient, invoice number, IRN date and IRN number of line items which are there in the invoice, the highest value, HSN code, all those things, and gross taxable value, such kind of things are available. QR code we cannot just read and understand. There is an application required, a mobile application, whereby this QR code can be read in a particular way. Now, what if a registered person or a notified person does not follow the invoice provisions? There is a penalty prescribed under section 122(3)(e) that up to 25,000 rupees under GST and 25,000 rupees under HGST penalty can be levied if e-invoice provisions are not followed by the supplier. There is one more requirement.
Mukesh, you're able to hear me? Hey, audio is very unclear.
Okay, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute.
Now it's better. You have more to cover? Hello, Mukesh.
Yeah, I'm here.
You'll take another 10 minutes?
Yeah, I'm almost done actually.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Now comes the important aspect with regard to e-invoice is what if we have reported a wrong invoice, a wrong value, a wrong HSN code or goods, what one can do? The only possibility is within 24 hours, you can delete that particular IRN from the IRP itself, from the portal. What if 24 hours time limit is gone? And after that, there is no option, but one has to log into the GST portal and amend that in the GSTR1 itself. So there is a possibility that IRN can be changed. Blindly, one should not file GSTR1 if he knows that there is a change in the IRN or there is a problem while reporting the IRN. Because now the data is available on the GSTR1. One should not just take the GSTR1 data as a complete and correct data and file it. Every month, there has to be a proper validation or verification of the data as per IRN and data as per GSTR1. It is not possible to amend IRN. It is only possible to cancel, delete, and regenerate. Now, while regenerating, what happens is the supplier may commit a mistake by generating the same invoice number and sending to IRN. One has to be very careful. Once an invoice is registered and you go and cancel or delete the invoice, the same data has to be reported to IRN under a new invoice number. The same invoice number cannot be generated. Second thing is, if supplier has generated e-way bill also, then IRN cannot be deleted if the e-way bill is active. One should and cancel the e-way bill on the portal if there is a time limit, if it permits, then cancel the IRN. So the process has to be followed sequentially. Linking of e-way bill, maybe when the next speaker, what are the fields which one has to key in for generating e-way bill also, we can deliberate while that demo is being given. This is a genesis of e-invoicing. E-invoicing was effective October 20, and in the first month itself, 5 crore IRNs was generated. As of March 2021, 39 crore IRNs have been generated, and April 21 onwards, the number will only increase because the threshold has been reduced and it has been brought down to 50 crores. So we have to just see what are the figures which will come. The road ahead, what is going to happen with the facility once it is made available is there will be turnover wise phased rollout for e-invoice. They are going to reduce this from 50 crores to maybe 20 crores, 10 crores or 5 crores. We don't know, but that is possible and it will certainly happen. They will try to bring in more and more registered person in compliance with e-invoice. Then offline form and mobile based application system also they are working on it. There is advanced analytics which will be happening using the e-invoices database because it is big data. There will be a lot of information available for each supplier, each recipient, each line item of goods based on HSN. Rollout of second, as of now only NIC is following it. Second, there will be few more websites will be up and running. There will be improvement in validation. Wherever there is an error in reporting and invoices are rejected, the validations will be brought in now. Like they will be now seeing as to whether the HSN code and rate of tax is also proper or not. Then eventually phased rollout for B2C invoices also is on the cards. So this is with regard to legal aspect of the e-invoicing. Then I have put in some screenshots, but maybe when as we have now live demo, we can discuss. Yeah, Vadri sir.
Mukesh.
Yeah. Now we can take the question because these are others are only. I think my time is also over.
Sure, that's okay. That's not a problem at all. Thank you so much, Mukesh. Thank you so much. But for that, the audio disconnect, it was wonderful. In fact, I should say this. It is a jinx. Whenever we want to talk about anything relating to electronic, it is that very session where something fails from the technology side. This happened with me in one of the earlier discussions as well, where we were talking with senior guys in the profession on virtual hearing. And trust me, the network that day was very bad for me. Okay, nonetheless, thank you, Mukesh. Thank you so much. Yes, definitely. There are a lot of questions all of us have, Mukesh. I'll just park them for a while till we see the demo with Adarsh. But yes, I leave these questions. While you said printing of invoice is not required, yes, it's definitely a benefit, but are we really geared for something like that is a question from a business perspective and from an administrative perspective. And yes, it's very heartening to also understand that e-invoicing, while we are only taking baby steps today, it will eventually replace e-way bills and the regular invoices. And of course, nevertheless, it will also do away with the fact that do away with the effort that is required to file a GSTR1. That's very important. And as you also mentioned, Mukesh, this will go and sit in the GSTR1, which is going to come out of the system automatically. But yes, I'm sure there'll be a lot of challenges because on one side, we are allowed to, if I make a mistake in my invoice, I can cancel it only within 24 hours. What if I miss that? Then yes, I have to take corrective action in GSTR1. Very, very important. You cannot assume that GSTR1, it's okay, because now the law has also got amended that the difference between GSTR1 and 3B is an accepted liability not paid. So we should be very careful about this. So with this, we have quite a few questions coming up, Mukesh. I will park them. Adarsh, very hearty welcome to you once again. Let me request you to take it from here.
Yeah, thank you and good evening, everyone. Thank you, Badri sir, and thank you, Mukesh, for the wonderful presentation so far. I'll be taking forward this from now. Just let me know once my screen is also visible. I hope it is visible to everyone.
Yes, visible.
Okay, sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No problem. Yeah. So I'll restart. Good evening, everyone. This is Adarsh from Web Solution Limited, and I'll be handling the product demo for today's session. Before moving on, just to give a quick intro about the company, Web Solution, what solution we offer here. So Web has a complete end-to-end solution for GST. In fact, we even hold the licensing for GSP, that is GST Suvidha Provider, from the government itself and appointed by GSTN. We have a solution where we offer GSTR filing, validation, reconciliation, along with e-way bill and e-invoicing. So we'll be discussing more about e-invoicing today. The demo will be also focused upon e-invoicing. Apart from that, we even have managed GSTR filing services with us, where we take up the data from the clients or the customer, and we do the data preparation and provide the inputs to the client, or even we do the filing services for them in the managed GST filing. So yeah, without further ado, I'd like to move on to the platform demo for the e-invoicing. So WebGST has an online platform for e-invoicing. Apart from that, we offer solutions where we offer integration solution with your ERPs for e-invoicing as well. And yeah, to log in. Yeah, so you'll get your company login for the GST platform of ours. Within the GST platform, you'll have menus such as the GST menus, where you can generate invoices. You can add multiple PAN numbers and GSTN to a single account of ours. And then you can generate your this thing, GSTR filing. You can also do from our platform. You can do reconciliation as well. GSTN downloads are also available. E-way billing is also there within the software, and then the main focus for today's session, e-invoicing. So I'd like to move on to the e-invoicing part. So here, as soon as we click on the e-invoicing menu, over here we have a dashboard where we get to see the summary of that particular month. Here in the summary, we have the number of generated records, as in the number of reported records for that particular month. How many invoices have we reported to the IRP portal as of today? Then the number of invoices we have cancelled. So this will also follow the 24 hours format as Mukesh earlier spoke about. And then the number of not generated records will be visible to you. So these will come under the section where you have uploaded the records to the platform, but you are yet to generate IRN or QR code for it. And then the number of error records while you were trying to generate IRN and QR code from our platform. If you scroll down, you will also get a GSTN wise segregation of your number of generated, cancelled, not generated, and error records. How many GSTN you have, that will be available under here. Then comes the next option, which is the bulk upload option over here. So this option will be utilized by clients and customer when they are trying to upload their invoice data onto the platform. Here we have a CSV template that I'd like to show to you how that can be used to upload your invoice data to the platform. First of all, we have a document details section over here. You can see the serial number you can give to the invoice, the location from which you are making the supply type over here, whether it is B2B, whether it is for a special economic zone with pay, without pay, whether it is an export with pay, without pay, or an deemed export supply. Whether this particular invoice is applicable for reverse charge or not, that you can select from here. And if at all this transaction is being done through the e-commerce, then the GSTN number of that e-commerce will be required, and IGST on Intra. So yeah, this you can use to upload your invoice data onto the platform. First of all is the document details section, then is your seller details section, that is your details, then the buyer details for the person who has purchased this supply or this good from you. Then the dispatch details are available, shipping details, batch details are also there. So you can provide the relevant details which are required for you to generate e-invoice. If you go into the second sheet, here you will get the number of mandatory fields which are requested by the government to give in mandatorily for anyone to generate e-invoices. So you can use that for your benefit and upload your invoice data in a way that it should be accepted by the IRP portal. Then we also have a menu in the same template where you can even give your e-way bill details. So if you want to generate e-way bill along with e-invoicing, then you can provide certain details like your transporter GSTN, transporter name, the mode of transport, the distance, the transporter document number, document date, vehicle number, and the vehicle type. If you provide these details, then the e-way bill will also be generated for that particular invoice. So once you have prepared data in this format, you can use that to upload it onto the platform. I'll upload it and click on import data. Here you can see data has been imported successfully. I passed 11 records to the platform and 11 were processed successfully. If at all they may arise some error into the data, then we can check it from the total error records. If we click on it, a separate Excel file would be downloaded onto the system. We can open that. Within that Excel file, at the last two columns will be added over here, error code and error messages. So using that, we can correct the data of ours and re-upload the same file by deleting the last two columns. And then once all of the line items has been processed or all the invoice details has been processed, we can go on to generate IRN. So generation of IRN is also an easy step. For which GSTN registration you are trying to generate the IRN for, that you can select from the GSTN menu over here, and the relevant invoice date. So I'll be selecting today's date only, and the record type. So record types are divided into 4 parts. First of all is an overall summary that will come in all. Then will come a not generated section, which will show records which have not been generated or the fresh records. Then will be a section where you can see the records where you got any error while you were trying to generate iron. And then there will be a section for generated records. So I'll be selecting as not generated as of now and click on view summary. So here I can see the invoices or the invoice details I have uploaded to the platform now visible to me. The iron column, as you can see, is blank over here. The error code and error descriptions are also blank, and the e-way bill number and e-way bill date are also blank since we are yet to generate the invoice. So now I can either check one of the invoices or I can check all of them in a single go and click on the generate iron option over here. I'll select one of the invoices, that is the 301 number invoice, and click on generate e-invoice. So as you can see, e-invoice has been generated successfully. It is a real-time process that is happening. We send this data onto the government platform. The government does its verification and deduplication check as well. After that, it generates the IRN and QR code for that particular invoice. Also, now this invoice will not be visible under here, since now I cannot see the 301 invoice over here because I have selected the not generated records. But if I select the generated ones and click on view summary, now I can see there is IRN number to this particular 301 invoice, and there is no error code and error description. And also, since I didn't provide any e-way bill details, this particular column is also blank. I can view and print this invoice directly from here as well. Also, we have another option to take a printout of these invoices. You just have to select the GSTN number of that invoice and the document dates. So if I click on view summary, now I can see the invoices that have been generated during this period for this particular GSTN. All will be listed over here. I can view it directly on the platform as well. So this is how the e-invoice will look like from our portal. Over here, you will have your QR code, which you can verify using the government app that Mukesh spoke about. The invoice number is also over here. Invoice date is here, and the IRN number. So IRN number is also printed over here. Here you will have your own company logo. For now, it is Web Solution Limited, and the rest of the details that you have supplied during the template upload option, that will be available on the invoices over here, and the item description and item details, taxable amount, taxable value, that also be visible over here. If you have given the payee details, then that should be available. Otherwise, it will come as blank. So we can go back now. So the another option will be to cancel any IRN. So as Mukesh spoke about, we have 24 hours to cancel any of the IRN that we have generated. So we can do that from the GST portal of ours also. You just have to select the GSTN, and the list will be automatically populated for the date range in which we have generated the IRN. So now I can copy this IRN number from here and paste it over here. So before that, I'd like to show you the status of this invoice. The status is currently active, but now I'll be canceling it. So if I select the reason why I'm canceling it, instantaneously it gets cancelled, and also the status of invoice changes from active to cancelled. So this is like how you can cancel the invoices from the portal. Now we also have options where you can generate reports for your records that you have generated so far, like the number of generated records, or an number of error in generation records, number of not generated records, or an entire e-invoice report. This will be available in an Excel format. You can download it for your each and every GSTN of yours in a particular date range, whichever you provide it over here. Then there is option to generate e-way bill as well from the portal using the IRN number. So since we didn't provide any e-way bill details while we were supplying the invoice data onto the platform. We also can use the IRN number to automatically fetch those details onto the e-way bill. So here we can give the GSTN number of that particular e-invoice. As soon as we give the GSTN number, a list down here will be populated. For that, we can copy the IRN number from here, paste it over here, and give rest of the transporter details like transporter ID, transporter document number, transporter document date, the mode of transport, transporter name, the distance of the supply we are making, the vehicle number, and the vehicle type as well. Then we can give the shipment address and the dispatch address as well. And we can now click on the generate e-way bill. So in this way, you can generate e-way bills from the portal using the IRN number. So as you can see here, you will not be required to provide the parts of the invoice details as you were requested to provide in the e-way bills that you are generating earlier. So this is like a benefit for you as well. Then you can cancel e-way bill from our portal as well. Again, you have to give the GSTN number over here. And as soon as you give the GSTN number and give the document date over here, so list will be populated down here with the data. You can copy the e-way bill number from there, give it over here, reason why you're canceling it, and you can simply click on cancel e-way bill, and your e-way bill will be cancelled from our portal. Then you can take the printout of your e-way bill you have printed so far. That is also available from the portals. Similar option as it was in the e-invoice menu as well. Again, you have to select the GSTN and the document date. So as soon as you give your document date, here you will get to see the list of the e-way bills has those which were generated using IRN number. So for this particular e-way bill, this is the e-way bill number and this is the IRN number, and the e-way bill generation date and time is also there. You can take a printout of that. You can download it as well. Then there is one option is an additional option of location management. So this can be used to get a daily e-way bill and e-invoice report directly to your email IDs along with the PDFs. So you can select your name, GSTN, location name, and the user which will be getting these PDFs, and give the rest of the details and submit it to the portal. Once you have submitted it, a list like this will be available over here, and all these users will be getting the e-invoice and the e-way bill PDFs directly onto their mail ID as soon as it is generated from the portal. So this is about the portal now. And okay, so this is from my end. I like to thank you all for your time and giving me the opportunity to present our platform over here. As a thank you note, I'd also like to again repeat the offer that we are having on Web Solution, that we are offering 1 month free trial of our platform. So you can use the link that is available on the chat box. You can provide your details over there and our team will reach out to you. So yeah, over to you, Badrina.
Thank you. Thanks, Adarsh. I think it was very, yes, e-invoicing, IRN sounds a little complicated at times, especially when we talk about the MSME sector who don't work with, a very high-end ERPs, etc. You made it simple for all of us. The ease with which you kind of walked us through, it looks very simple. I sincerely pray and hope that the experience for all of us in the invoicing is also as easy as you kind of showed us in the last 30 minutes. So thank you very much on that. And yes, at the cost of repetition, Prithvi has mentioned, Adarsh also mentioned, I think each one of you should make use of this opportunity, which is available to BCIC members for the next 30 days or for a month, as they were mentioning. Explore do what you want, then I mean you have to finally decide how to implement it for your business. But nonetheless, just as a snapshot, if I could maybe share a few thoughts with you. While there are very many ways of generating e-invoice, one of the efficient ways is exactly what Adarsh walked us through. It's an efficient way. There are offline tools to do, but at least I'm not a fan of offline tools because it will have its own challenges and it's not real time. What Adarsh showed us definitely addresses those from a concern point of view. Yes, keeping in mind the accounting system that you're working with, the ERP that you're working with, you should very quickly look at integrating that into WEP and the tool which will bring in a lot more efficiency to your working. That's my 2 cents on this aspect. And yes, to both of you, Adarsh and Mukesh, there are quite a few questions. I'll try reading them out. For export of goods, we export FOB value in taxable value, and there are other charges like insurance and freight on which tax is not calculated in shipping bill. So can we export insurance and freight amount in the other charges filed while generating e-invoice? Mukesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, as per GSTR1, you will be reporting the total transaction value. And in shipping bill, if you are reporting FOB, there is a provision of such correction in GSTR1. Using the amendments table 9, you have to upload the shipping bill value. So that can be done. But separate item, if there is a difference between the invoice value and the shipping bill value, you can update that in table 9 of GSTR1.
Cool. Please send the HSN verification link in the chat box. As Adarsh mentioned, it's already there. For export of goods, okay, that's a repetition. I've copied it twice. Aggregate turnover, exact 50 crore. Then e-invoice applicable, question mark.
Exceeds 50 crores. If
Exact
aggregate turnover exceeds 50.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
exact, it will not be applicable.
Correct. Done, sir. Done. E-invoice, e-way bill below 50K compulsory. I will keep this question out. Is the SEZ unit exempt from e-invoicing?
Yes.
Yes, the point of
SEZ developers are not exempt, but
Yes.
SEZ units are exempt.
Yes, that is the aspect that you should keep in mind to the person who kind of posted this question. While it is exempt for units, not for developers. If we raise e-invoice on exempt goods, will it become an issue or a problem?
I don't think so. It is a problem, but is it possible to report? I'm not sure. We're not tried.
Correct.
Maybe others can reply.
I don't think it'll be at least from my understanding, I don't think it'll be a challenge to raise it, nor to report it. It'll be. I would believe it will be a good practice. Just like I think the intention of the government is to keep it open, like it is for e-way bills, like where it is less than 20, you're free to use an e-way bill. Where it is less than 20K, but of course more than 20K, it's mandatory. So I believe this is the approach of the government for this question. Is that okay, Mukesh? Okay. Is e-invoice mandatory for B2C cases? How do we generate QR code for B2C invoices? I think this question was asked before Adarsh gave his walked us through the thing. So I think it's answered. Do let me know if it is not, we'll answer it. E-invoice is applicable for startup companies. Sir, I will answer this. There is no startup, mid-segment, etc. It is based on turnover. So as a startup, if you have more than 50 crores, it will be applicable. Is there any new rules for SEZ units from 1st April 21 on e-invoicing? Mukesh?
Nothing is no, sir.
Okay, nothing. E-invoice applicable to SEZ services. So I don't know if this is a question or a statement. Taking it as a question, Mukesh, will e-invoice be applicable to services?
Service is provided to SEZ, yes, it will be applicable if the service provider is a notified person. Notified person is having turnover more than 50 crores in any of the financial year. So if it is provided to SEZ, yes, e-invoicing has to be done.
Okay.
Service is provided by SEZ, e-invoice need not be done by SEZ.
Correct. Okay. Venkat has asked a question. Venkat Kedlaya, is it not required to generate e-invoice for B2C? What is not required, Venkat? If you can raise your hand and maybe unmute yourself and ask, it'll be easier. If the recipient is paying the tax on RCM mode, is it mandatory to issue e-invoice?
Yeah, this we have highlighted also. If the supplier is registered and he is a notified person means again 50 crores turnover. supplier is registered, he is providing a service which is liable under RCM. Supplier has to raise e-invoice. The recipient raises a self-invoice only when supplier is not registered. So there is a very much, the clarity is there in section 31(3)(f). Only if unregistered person, section 9394 supplies RCM, self-invoice has to be raised. Self-invoice, no need to report on IRN.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. If e-invoice is not cancelled within 24 hours, how to cancel the same after 24 hours?
One is to log into GST portal, and from GSTR1 he has to eliminate that entry. But there will be a trail for that, and one has to be prepared with the evidence and reason as to why that entry is removed.
Yeah, I'll just add with your permission, Mukesh. See, as
Please, sir.
walked us through, and in fact, as Adarsh also very clearly highlighted, there is a 24-hour cap to to cancel an invoice which is incorrect. If you don't, from a technology perspective, it is as good as you have raised. And even if you cancel it while filing, even if you eliminate that line item while filing a GSTR1, it will remain a difference. It will remain as a difference between GSTR1 and e-invoice. Today in law has got amended, not yet effective though, where they say a difference between 3B and 1 is a deemed tax liability that is unpaid, and therefore 7374 can accordingly be initiated. So, given the approach that the tax office has been taking in the last year or so, or maybe slightly more than that, don't be surprised if deeming fiction comes in for differences between e-invoices generated and not reported or cancelled while filing GSTR1. Fine, of course, where we don't cancel, rather, if we are one of the recipients of such notices, we may feel that, look, it is unfair, it is incorrect to do that. But there is a 24-hour deadline that is given for us to cancel the invoice, which we should be wary about and utilize. If we don't, then I'm sure all of us have to carry that. All of us will have to carry that exposure.
Yeah.
Is e-invoice?
Only thing is we should be prepared with evidence and reason, proper reason.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. This may correct. Let me correct. As thank you, Mukesh. Just because we get a notice, it doesn't make us wrong. We should have appropriate documents to demonstrate that it was an error. E-invoice not generated, but e-way bill cancelled and credit note issued for invoice. E-invoice required for credit note. I think Narayanan has answered your question saying it is not required. Is e-invoice mandatory for exempted GST invoice? I assume
exempted
it is
GST,
goods or services.
Exempted supply e-invoice is not mandatory, not required.
Yeah. After 24 hours.
Badri sir, I just want to add one thing.
Please.
The earlier question which was asked, that let's assume a transaction which invoice was raised in March when the supplier was not under e-invoice regulations. But for that transaction, if a credit note is raised in April when he is under e-invoice requirements, maybe you can correct me. My view is that credit note should be reported because data is flowing to credit with GSTR1.
Hello.
Tax period wise.
Fair point.
What happened that yesterday's booking?
Fair point.
There's no requirement to link with the original invoice.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes, I think booking copy, it is not clear. No, that's why you have given booking number.
Excuse me, there is somebody who's unmuted and having another parallel conversation. Can you please unmute? Sorry, can you please mute yourself? Yeah. And Mukesh, one question from my side. I didn't see anybody ask that question, so I will ask that. You mentioned that there is a 25,000 in penalty for non-compliance with the e-invoicing regulations. So, the simple question is, will it be per invoice or per month or per tax period, per year, or every time that a notice is issued?
Section 122, if you allow me, I'll just share the screen so that.
Yeah.
Sir, section 120, any person who fails to issue an invoice in accordance with the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder, or fails to account for an invoice in his books of account, shall be liable to penalty which may extend to 25,000 rupees. What I feel is the way it is drafted, it is qua person and not qua transaction. As if we compare to section 129, when there is a detention, search or seizure and penalty is levied for the failure of carrying a proper documentation for that particular transaction. It's a transaction-wise penalty. My view is that this should be a procedural lapse. Because of this, not necessary that it will be resulting in an evasion of tax, and because of that, and also it looks like is a qua supplier or qua person. Doctrine of proportionality. It should not be like every invoice raised, not every invalid invoice raised or not following a particular mechanism. Every invoice 50,000 rupees will be disproportionate to the non-compliance. My view is that it should be qua person. Maybe you can let me know your views.
Sure. I think this is a little open from a debate point of view, but let's sincerely hope that the government also interprets it and reads it the way Mukesh said. Let it be per person and not per invoice or every time a assessment happens. I sincerely hope hope that way, because it will become unfair and unreasonable to have a 50,000 invoice for every penalty for every invoice.
Yeah. And moreover, if it is reported already GSTR in GSTR1 tax is paid, then it can be demonstrated that there is no evasion of tax. It is my view anyway. But certainly it is open.
Sure, yeah. Sure. One second, I'm just trying to read out. How do we generate e-invoice if the service recipient is an unregistered person, like exports to a foreign company? Mukesh?
Exports anyway, it is required to generate the e-invoice. When others has shown the demo, there were various fields which were to be selected for every transaction. So once you select a transaction, for export, certain fields will not be mandatory, like PIN code and all. So, or if it like GSTN number and all, so there will not be validation happening. So it can be generated as it is using the utility or the web software.
Sure. Adarsh, you want to add something?
Yeah, correct. As we select the type of supply we are making, the validation of the government portal also changes along with that, as Mukesh spoke about it. So it is correct. Yeah.
Sure. If some invoice which were not online uploaded for April 21 in e-invoice, can the same be added manually in GSTR1 while filing GSTR1, or for such left out invoice we shall intimate to the LGSTO? Also, can such invoice be uploaded now in the e-invoice portal?
There is no validation of the document date. My view is yes, it is possible to upload those invoices, but then it will flow into GSTR1 of the current tax period. To answer the question, GSTR1 of April 1, 2021, invoices should be added manually and reported in GSTR1, and in 3B the tax should be paid out as it comes. If it is raised later on, the same invoices will flow into GSTR1 of the subsequent month, should be manually eliminated, and certainly intimation should be to the authority should be given.
Yep. Adarsh, may I request for your inputs on this? How the system would work if it's a earlier dated one?
Earlier dated, yeah. So if it is earlier dated, the system will not accept those invoices in the starting phase itself.
Okay.
And when we are uploading the invoices to the platform at that time itself, it will not accept it.
Oh, okay. Understood. Whether printing of IRN number on the invoice is mandatory along with QR code. Adarsh, you want to maybe share your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So printing of IRN number is not mandatory. The QR code is mandatory. Since as Mukesh spoke about in his PPT, when he was explaining about the QR code, when we verify this QR code using the app, we get certain fields or the data which we get. In that data, IRN number is already mentioned. So if we do not print, if there is no space on our invoices to be printed whenever we are printing it, IRN cannot be printed over there, then it is okay. But QR code should be there, and
Sure.
it should be readable as well.
Sure. One more question for you, Adarsh. After 24 hours, how can we prepare credit note against the prepared e-invoice and how to cancel e-way bill for that? I think he showed us how to do that. Maybe just your inputs on this, Adarsh.
So after 24 hours, if you want to cancel your e-way bills, right? Yeah. So if you have like already cancelled your e-invoice, then you can cancel your e-way bill as well. But if this e-way bill has already been like verified by the tax officer, then you cannot cancel your e-way bills as well, or even your e-invoice related to it.
Okay. Okay. Noted. Hello, Mukesh. One question for you. Hello, Mukesh. What if IRP portal shows vendor is eligible for e-invoice, but vendor claim he has not crossed 50 crore threshold limit? Okay, pardon for the spelling. And what is the impact on receipt of recipient of goods or services if supplier fails to generate e-invoice?
See, authorities are accepting that they might have enabled the e-invoice requirement for certain vendors or suppliers or registered person, although they are not crossing the threshold limit. They need not follow the e-invoice regulations. As they are not notified persons, recipient need not worry about that input tax credit if the e-invoicing procedures are not followed for them.
Sure. From a housekeeping, bookkeeping perspective, I would say that you take a declaration as to why the vendor is not issuing an e-invoice, though it is kind of enabled on the portal. So as long as you have a declaration from him, he's below the threshold. I think it'll be easy to demonstrate what Mukesh just mentioned.
Yes.
What, dear sir, when can a company with 20 to 50 crore expect e-invoice implementation? It's a wonderful question, Nagaraj, but as I mean, it is a future point of view. It is anybody's.
They will certainly give some time.
Yeah, they'll certainly give some time, but it is anybody's guess when it can be implemented. Do we need to report the insurance and freight amount under other charges column in an e-invoice? Others, if you can share your inputs on this. Do we need to report the insurance and freight amount? Rather, where do we need to report the insurance and freight amount in the e-invoice?
So we have a other charges section in the template that I showed earlier. So over there we can add these charges, which are not like main charges of the invoice. Sure.
I think once maybe people, all the members here and more start using the demo access that Adarsh has extended, I think you will find answers for a lot of this. We are related to the SEZ unit.
Sir, actually, the previous question, it should not be disclosed in their charges if there is if it is a taxable value.
If it's a taxable value, correct.
It has to go up, and as far as section 15 is concerned, this is not as an amount available as eligible as a deduction.
Where it is taxable, yes, it should be included above the line.
Yes. Yeah. Other charges, please, if you include it, and then IRN will be incorrect, it will not get the tax will not be computed on this amount.
Okay. We are related to SEZ unit. We do scrap sales at one time. Is scrap sales required invoicing? Yes, if you breach the thresholds, it will be applicable. And relationship with an SEZ will not really matter. It depends whether you are an SEZ unit or not.
Right. For the purpose of aggregate turnover, you have to merge both entities' turnover and see whether you fall in notified category.
Correct. IRN QR code cannot be printed on separate page means, Adarsh, you want to take this question? The question
So this,
simply is IR and QR code cannot be printed on separate page. Question mark means question mark.
Yeah. So this was like mentioned in Mukesh's PPT that you cannot provide IRN and QR code separately on a separate page. It should be part of your invoice. That is the main. Whenever you are giving your invoices to your suppliers or your customers, then it should be part of the invoice. It should be part where IRN is there and QR code is there as part of that invoice.
See, Badri sir, what many people are doing is maybe they're using Tally software and not linking with the IRP portal directly. What they do is they print tax invoice from Tally and then they print IRN generated using bulk upload something. They will generate IRN and a downloaded file from IRP. They will print that invoice also, e-invoice also, and attach both the documents. One is their tax invoice, the other is the document generated from the portal. So these are two separate pages. Technically, Rule 46 says that everything should be on the tax invoice itself. As this item is added as a QR code in the 18th item, it should form part of the tax invoice.
Sure. In that case, will it not be appropriate to just use the downloaded and printed e-invoice instead of my Tally invoice? Because it will have all the contents of my Tally invoice plus the IRN and the QR code.
No. Tally invoice can have 20 line items. IRN will have only one line item, which is the highest value.
Oh, so we should enclose both of them together.
If you enclose, then it can be a non-compliance. Somehow you have to print that, take the QR code from the PDF file and put it on the invoice.
Okay, that can be a challenge.
That is a challenge. That is a challenge many people are facing.
I'm sure Adarsh is waiting to give the solution for it. Adarsh, WEP platform is the solution for it.
Yeah, correct. If they generate it from us, then there's no compliance issues.
Absolutely. So Adarsh, one more question for you in the same breath. Can we upload the e-invoice for April 21 in the month of May 21? If yes, what is timeline?
No. We cannot upload the, if we have already like generated these invoices in our softwares, within 48 hours time frame, we have to report it to the IRP portal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then there are quite a few hands which have gone up. So maybe I'll request Venkat. Venkat has raised his hand. If you can unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Yeah.
We'll take another maybe 3 or 4 questions. We'll try and wind it up in the next 5 minutes. Venkat?
Can you able to hear me?
Yes, Venkat.
Yeah. I think we are supplying some services to the SEZ units, but we are unable to generate e-invoice for the SEZ, for the services especially. But my question is whether it is applicable for services, e-invoicing applicable to the SEZ unit or not?
It's a taxable supply and your turnover has exceeded 50 crores and you are you are a notified person. I assume that.
Yeah.
So when you're, what is the error message coming? You have to select with payment of tax or without payment of tax.
No, I exactly, I have not identified the error message, but it is, we are unable to generate, we can generate other e-invoices. We will generate other invoices for the others, but only for the SEZ unit, especially for the services, we cannot generate. What my feeling is whether any restriction or it is not applicable to SEZ unit, how it is.
It depends on the HSN code error or some kind of an error.
Maybe we have not identified that error actually.
Okay, so I'll put it this way. Maybe you should just check the nature of error because each error has a different type of treatment. What one of my colleagues has done, in fact, she shared it with me this morning, a document, the list of codes, error codes, what it means and how to solve that. So I would suggest you should look at what is the error that is coming up. And only then we can probably find a solution to it.
Okay, conceptually for the SEZ services, it is e-invoice is applicable.
Correct.
Okay.
There was one more hand. Maybe they've lowered it. I think they found they got the answer. Yes. So let me put it this way: the Adarsh and Mukesh, thank you very much. The number of people on this discussion itself speaks for itself. How important the discussion is, how critical it is in my business, and the number. I'm sure, at least my measure a lot of times in the participation is how it is not just how interesting the topic is, how many challenges they are facing at the field level is also an important measure to see how many people participate. So I want to believe that quite a few of us have a lot of challenges on the field. And yes, a very useful discussion today. In fact, this discussion was proposed by WP. Others, thank you for that. Thank you for proposing and in fact making this happen. We look at doing one more, maybe similar to this based on how the members kind of ask for it. So any closing remarks, Venkat and Adarsh? Mukesh and Adarsh?
Others.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank everyone who joined for today's session. If there are at all any challenges they are facing as part of the product, if they are already using our services, then they can also contact us. If they are not using our services, still they can mail us. We have our website, webdigitallimit.com. They can mail us over that as well. And if there are any queries related to as per the product, they can talk to us and we'll be happy to help them. And on the basis of any financial queries they have, then Mukesh is there.
Oh yes, Mukesh, you want to share something? Closing remarks?
Yeah, from my side, one thing we all have to accept is that this is going to stay, and the threshold or limit, if it is decreasing, many people will come in. In long term, there are advantages of e-invoice. We have to wholeheartedly accept this because this is the way forward. It should effectively reduce our time and errors also. So there will be certain initial hiccups, some workarounds will be required. But yes, we should set up our business processes in such a way that we can manage these new challenges and come through it. So thank you very much, Badri sir, and thank you to BCIC for giving this opportunity. I'm sorry if I would have committed any mistake because a very short notice prepared the presentation.
Not at all. Not at all, Mukesh. In fact, thank you very much to stepping in at the last moment. And yes, please note every word of what Mukesh just mentioned as part of his last sentence. This is here to stay. So please look at how you can become more efficient, from a technology perspective. We had a good discussion today, both from a legal side and a technology side. The blend of this is what is required from a business perspective. So keep that in mind, because at the cost of repetition, it is here to stay. So the faster we kind of, I'm just using the same words which Mukesh said. I don't want to use different words. The faster you embrace this, the better for you. So, and yes, let's look at because this is going to bring in a lot of efficiencies, because this is going to remove e-way bills, remove the regular invoicing. At least that is the hope in the near future. With that, let me wind up today's session. Thanks a ton. Thank you everyone for participating today. It was very nice to see that number of people on this discussion today. Mukesh and Adarsh, we exceeded 125 at a point in time. Thank you very much. Prithvi, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Badri. So you like to share that your upcoming event through our indirect tax committee, sir?
Yeah. Okay. I'll take maybe 30 seconds on that. There are a couple of sessions we are planning to do on the indirect taxes side. One is more from a very legal perspective, yet in the blueprint, not finalized yet. So idea is to try and understand when to challenge a provision and things like that. When to accept a provision, though it may be to our dislike. So maybe understand the legalities, the legal side of it. And the other one is more on one sec. Which was the other one, Prithvi?
Can I claim GST credit if the vendor has not remitted?
Sorry. Thank you, Prithvi. Thanks. And sorry for missing that out. We have had this DY Breathel's case in the Chennai High Court recently, earlier this month. So it's we want to have a discussion around that to see how, from a business perspective, we should get ready, what to expect, what to do, what not to do. We will keep you posted very soon about these two sessions. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Badri sir, for the plan of action for the coming months from the Indirect Tax Committee. I'd like to thank you, sir, for moderating the session and taking forward this. I'd
Thank
also
you.
like to thank the speaker Mukesh Shah and Adarsh Singh, and also the entire team of Web Solutions Private Limited. We also thank all the participants for patient hearing and with good questions bringing out, and we'll take it forward from there. If any more questions are there, please do feel free to send your queries to office@bcac.in. We will be able to answer from the respective experts the answers. Thank
Sure.
you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Logging off.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.